Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Before we get started, just some quick introductions. The Manufacturing Safety Alliance of BC is the not-for-profit health and safety association for manufacturers and food processors across our province. And we invite you to call on us at any time to ask for confidential help with your safety program and training. Visit our website for workplace safety training and resources, or for information on how you can earn the Occupational Safety Standard of Excellence, which is core certification for manufacturers and processors. Today's webinar, I really just want to introduce, as businesses in every industry have been rolling out new protocols to protect workers, their pandemic challenges have become the catalyst for new collaborations on technology solutions. And the Smart Cone Task Force is one fascinating example of that. Some of you might remember seeing a demo of this technology at UBC during our Make It Safe conference last fall. And today we've invited Smart Cone CEO Jason Lee to show you how a group of technology developers are designing an ecosystem of automated tools that leverage the technology behind Smart Cone to manage COVID-19 risk in industrial environments. Jason is the Chief Executive Officer of Smart Cone Technologies, and for the past 30 years, he's worked as a technologist and entrepreneur to make the world safer through innovative technologies in aviation, business intelligence, manufacturing, and software development. In the process, Jason's created 3 award-winning products, and he joins us this morning from his home in California, Ontario. Jason.
Thank you very much for that. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Obviously, dealing with COVID-19 is something that touches people around the world. And like so many of you, we're doing everything we can to help provide technological solutions and experience to help deal with the pandemic now, with returning back to work, and then well into the future as well. So with that, I have a presentation that I would like to share with you. And so let me just do the screen sharing. And there we go. Okay, for those of you who have not heard of Smart Cone before, Smart Cone has created the Smart Cone-19 Task Force, which is a task force designed to bring technology together in an ecosystem that provides a closed loop solution for managing the return to work for COVID-19, among other things. This is the introductory slide that we show that kind of brings in the what we believe is the return to work scenario that takes you from your home to your workplace and back. And so starting with the top left-hand corner, and I won't spend too much time on this because we can go through Q&A, so I'll go over it quickly. But the first piece is looking at the biometrics of people when they're in the safety of their own home. And there's a variety of ways to do that. And what happens there is if somebody has got COVID-19, we want them to stay home. We don't want to use the workplace as a detection method for obvious reasons, that if somebody did get diagnosed with COVID-19 on a job site, then that would provide containment issues, obviously, or contamination and containment, but then also erode the confidence of workers as they come to work as well. So we want to make sure that peace of mind and that a good positive way for people to manage the detection and of COVID-19. And we also want to provide support for the person who may have just found out that they've been diagnosed with COVID-19, or at least protect their identity by just staying home and that sort of thing. So that's always the first step for us, and we want to follow that person's profile all the way through the whole journey. And when I say that profile, the data is all kept private and accessible only through the rules and regulations of the employer, and any of the data that's passed from the person to any system can be fully anonymized, so it has nothing to do with the privacy of the employee or person. It's all to do with the safety of that person and the work zone. The second piece is you can see there's a person in item number 2 that's going to get on a transit system. And so again, making sure that we scan people before they get into an area where there are going to be a group of people. That's what this portion is for. That could be done, for example, at a bus terminal in preparation while people wait for transit. It could be done at a shuttle bus scenario, like for example at work, if you want to scan people before they get on the bus there as well. Also drivers of vehicles, making sure that the driver and the location, the inside of the vehicle has been contained and monitored. And you'll see the cleaning portion of that later on when we get to item 6. And then when people are on transit, we can watch. This is good for trains or long duration transport, as well as repetitive transportation. And some of the workplaces like meat production or factories, nuclear facilities, other areas where workers have to go to work and don't have the choice to work at home. Having an organized transportation system for them that provides them a safe and disinfected transportation is, again, peace of mind. But as they traverse back and forth throughout the week, we can trend any symptoms that pop up or see variations in temperature by that person's unique identification on the wearable that they wear. Again, that does not have to be disclosed or privacy information. It can just be about the technology. And that way, that lends itself through data analysis to find early detection and those kinds of things of any symptoms that arise. Moving to number 4 is very similar to the number 2 piece, but not everybody takes transportation to work. Some people can walk, some people ride their bikes, and so on. So having a C-can container or a tent or something like that outside your workforce, again, is another very important piece of a return to work system. And again, that's because if someone is detected to have COVID-19 or some other illness that could be contagious, you want to contain it to that C-can as opposed to having it in the lobby of your building. And I know a lot of people do have thermal cameras in the lobby of their building, and convenience, it's rapid deployment. But the reality is if somebody is detected with COVID-19 in that building, that causes more challenges with health, safety, security, and so on. So our recommendation is to do that. And tents are okay, but the problem with using a tent over a C-can or a trailer or something like that is that it's harder to control and stabilize the environment. Using a C-can, you can insulate it and you can keep a nice steady baseline temperature, and that allows you to eliminate a lot of false positives with temperature scanning and so on and so forth. Now, all through the process, back to that first step for a second, using a contact tracing wearable enables us to track where the people go, and it allows us to associate all the temperature scannings and all the information forms and any of the triage processes that people go through and attach it to that digital identity. And then again, that all feeds itself into certainty and information and assurance for the work staff and for the people. So when you get into number 5, I mean, everybody at this point is familiar with contact tracing. I think that's one of the biggest things that has been promoted everywhere is physical distancing. I don't like the social distancing thing. I think that's, that was a good term, I guess, when it came out, but it's physical distancing is what people mean, obviously. But you can see that there's little circles around the people who are following and complying with the physical distancing, and then there's the red circles that are popping up showing that people are infringing on that. Those are virtual circles, by the way. They're not actually lights that are going on the ground. I mean, that's always a possibility with technology, but I think that's overkill. What we do have, though, is we do have little wearables that can just nudge you and let you know that you're too close to people. But operations, the people who are providing the oversight to the facility, can see a map where the circles are superimposed on the map. And again, one of the things that comes out of something like this is looking at the process of how you set up your manufacturing floor. In the past, real estate is expensive, so you try to optimize the efficiency and the effectiveness of your factory floor. I have a background in designing lean manufacturing floors where you have everybody as close as possible to where all the work is being done and the quality assurance, which is exactly opposite of what we're saying now. And the unfortunate part is a lot of companies are set up where they have to be close to work. And then you have this challenge where, you know, spreading out means you can have less productivity because there's less people in the building, and so that's a change. And one of the things that in my opinion is going to change for the future is re-examining how people and products move around a facility to give people more room to stay in safe for things like this COVID-19. And there's, you know, the frame of mind where people talk about this is just, you know, once this is over, we can go back to normal. You know, I don't think so. I think that the problem that I see with that is that the cost of COVID-19 and our preparedness or lack thereof preparedness is a major problem. And we don't want to repeat that. And there's no guarantee that we're not going to have another pandemic happen that's similar to this, and people are forecasting that already. I mean, true or not, we still have to think about that kind of approach. So using contact tracing and following how often circles flow with each other, they call it heat mapping, right, in the retail space, but looking how people and products move throughout your facility will help planners rejig the manufacturing floor so that they can add this new layer of safety and security into the production floor while focusing on maximum output. So I think we all know that as Canadian companies, we have to generate revenue as fast as we possibly can for our own company, but the country is also going to have a deficit, and paying taxes is going to be one of those things that's going to come out of that. And so we want to export, we want to be productive. And you know, right now we're focused on safety, which is the right thing, but we also need to collect the data for how to do a job in the future while being safe, and that will come from items number 5, where we can analyze the contact tracing, the flow for the new production floor. And then number 6 is the cleaning and disinfecting. This is a compliance thing. You know, whether it's you want to clean based on how many people have traversed through the area. So maybe, for example, every 500 people that walk through an area, it needs to be disinfected. I mean, I'm just picking a number. It could be every 10. But at the same time, you want to make sure that when you're cleaning and disinfecting, that you have an audit trail. And so we work with some very large cleaning companies in the U.S. And you know, a lot of companies have their own janitorial staff that may not be well trained or whatever in technology. I mean, they're obviously well trained in cleaning, but adding a technological element to that may be problematic. So making it as seamless as possible for people to get the work done, like wearing a tag, and then the system knows that it's a cleaner that's cleaning, whether it be an autonomous cleaner, a fogger, a person, well, whatever the case is. There's going to be policies, if they're not already in place with your facility, where how much cleaning or disinfectant needs to go on an area, what the dwell time is of that to ensure that it kills any pathogens. And so all that needs to be recorded and approved. And right now it's best case policy and so on, which is you know what all we can do until you put a system like this in place. But if there is ever an outbreak or a problem within a factory, it's better for the owners of the factory to have data that shows and proves that they've been cleaned and disinfected within the policy, that they've done everything they possibly can do. And then finally, the next piece is that if you do have an outbreak somewhere, knowing where everybody was, who they interfaced in, and all that traceability for the contact part, which again we're all talking about, is key. But then also the how you responded to the containment and how you disinfected it, how fast that happened, and how you responded. That disaster recovery element, which is an advanced feature within the contact tracing piece, is super important. Because you want your people who maybe if you're a shift worker, for example, and the night shift is where somebody was picked up with COVID-19, and the day shift people are coming in tomorrow and they're informed of that, you don't want them having any anxiety. So showing how that, you know, on a dashboard that you publish to your employees, that you've captured something and then you contained it, and then you have videos or footage of the cleaning so that everyone's going back to a completely fresh spot. Will show your employees that you're responding, that you've taken charge, that you've cleaned it for their best interest, and then again, that's all to do with peace of mind. This is our obviously our philosophy that we believe in, and we have the technology to make this happen, and we've deployed these things in other markets, which we'll get to in the presentation. So it's just how we put this together, how we see it. And this just drills down a little more into the same things that we just talked about. So I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but this will answer questions later on if you want to go through this on your own. So this is kind of the COVID-19 methodology, where somebody goes in, they get asked questions or you analyze them, you view them, you talk to them, you clean the area, so on and so forth. It goes through a whole methodology of how we see the, we call this the COVID-19 risk management process. One of the new things that we have just secured from a team of well-established doctors using artificial intelligence from MIT and Cambridge, UK, and this is an app that uses a phone, just a regular phone or tablet that has audio and video on it. And what happens is somebody goes through and they answer the questions like I'm sure many of you have to answer all the time already anyway. But it also it takes a video of your breathing and the audio of your coughing and breathing and measures your temperature using all these AI models from the top medical universities, and does a personal triage of whether or not you have COVID-19 symptoms. It's been tested on over 1 million people at 2 different hospitals in Oman, where the doctor who's internationally renowned in this research created the app and has successfully detected people who had COVID-19 and has somewhere between 70 and 90%, depending on the 2 markers that get used, in accuracy. So we say 70% because we don't want to give any indication that that it's not, it's more than that. But it is self-learning, and we expect this to gain more accuracy as we go along with the AI models. And so, like I said, it's been used at 2 hospitals, and it's what we believe is the future for doing a personal triage, where right now you would walk up to your thermal camera, you would be scanned by it, and you would have to answer questions. So having a non-contact way to answer questions, like, a virtual assistant asking you questions, and this is analyzing the person's breathing and their temperature and so on and so forth, will give a fairly accurate indication if there's symptoms or not. And then, of course, the thermal cameras that people are, deploying all over the place. Now, thermal cameras can be misleading, which is why it is that the personal triage app is a good add-on to it, and other modes of scanning. So the personal triage app does 40 different analysis, by the way, on the points of checking. But the thermal camera, again, looking at scanning people as they go into the building is key. As long as we know that we're not finding false positives on somebody who's exerted themselves or having a coffee and so on and so forth. And a lot of that has to do with just making sure you prepare people when they go for scanning, that they themselves are aware of things that could provide a false positive, so that they don't do that. They just go in from a state where they're not artificially hot on the skin temperature is helpful. And then also making sure that they have, things like a sign that's a self opt-in, because we don't want people touching stuff or writing with pens and so on. And having somebody, like a human being, designated for every entry point is, obviously it's useful because you can get verbal confirmation, but it also puts the first responder in that first responder for the company in harm's way, and it can be very expensive. So looking at ways to do that, where you have one person like a nurse or something like that that can support lots of people at the same time, is just leads itself to profitability and recovery, which is also really important. So we also have wearables, and these are dual channel wearables. And so what that means is that a lot of people have like little Bluetooth bracelets and stuff like that. They give you the zones. We don't use Bluetooth. I mean, we have it on our devices, but it's not something we rely on because it's unreliable. We have a 900 megahertz proximity bubble that somebody wears. All it does is puts out a beacon measured for the 2-meter distance, and then as people just interface with each other, then those signals interact, kind of like a dog fence. If anybody has a dog fence, it works very similar to that. But there's no intelligence to it. It's just just a personal bubble indicator. The second piece is the high accuracy indoor positioning, which is within 10 centimeters accuracy. And again, it's a wearable. It's the same wearable, but it's 2 different radio signals. So you're getting 2 benefits. One's giving high accuracy positioning, which is doing all that contact tracing we talked about a minute ago, and the second one is just a bubble that lets people know when you're getting into their zone or they're getting into your zone. And the same thing gets put on vehicles so that if you have cranes or forklifts or something like that traversing throughout the work floor, the same system is used for coordinating safety between vehicles and people. Of course, everything integrates into our own dashboard or your existing dashboard. We have an open architecture, and we did this because you can use 1% of Smartcone's ecosystem or 100% or anywhere in that mix. So if you already have a lot of things in place, then this enables you to add on to your existing strategy to fill it in and complete it. Otherwise, that's just we can provide the full solution with the screens and everything. And then this gets back to that cleaning piece where we're talking about making sure that when it's cleaned that we're following along. So you can see on the bottom right hand corner there's a floor plan with a bunch of red markers in it. Those red markers represent the areas that are being cleaned, and the darker little overlaps in the Venn diagrams basically are just showing you the overlap of the cleaning area. And the same goes for coatings. There's a number of coatings out there that last up to 90 days that are what's it called? But anyway, so they make sure that any pathogens, antimicrobial and pathogens that land on the surface die immediately. And so either way, we want to track and make sure that we monitor the success of that cleaning so people are safe. And then you can see the pictures of the people cleaning, simple wearable, duration period, and then you can have a body cam that just takes a picture of the cleaning area. And obviously this is a scalable pricing thing, but we do have finance options to spread these things over a 5-year time frame so that it's affordable to deploy. So companies with all the COVID-19 risks don't have a lot of capital to invest in these things, and we do work with the Canadian government with different programs. So, our goal here is to enable people and give them access to technology and spread it over a finance plan that works well. The most important thing is rebooting the economy. So this is just a little bit more about SmartCone and the things we've done in the past. So all the technology we talked about in the slides before this have all come from dealing with these applications. So where we've done things like Workzone safety already with IBM and Nokia and Microsoft. Bike lane, where we deployed, SmartCone was selected as the leading bike and pedestrian safety system by the DOT in the US and by the Transport Canada for the big demonstration in Ontario, $2 million demonstration, and that's because of our ability to collect data from multiple sensors and provide and coordinate with vehicles and provide safety for everybody who's involved. So we have an autonomous vehicle operation as well. Lots of data collection, fleet management, asset tracking. You can see that we've just got a barrage of products there. And like Lego, we can build all sorts of different solutions. We have Click IoT, it's called. It's kind of like little Lego pieces that allow us to put these solutions together quickly. Here's an example of Workzone safety, for example, that shows a camera on top with LiDAR that just is counting people as they go in. We have artificial intelligence for OCR, like license plate recognition or container reading. We can read the numbers on containers and stuff like that, and then provide a LiDAR which is a tripwire, so keeping people out of areas they shouldn't be in. An example would be if you do have a COVID-19 has been detected, then you might want to put up a safety cone around the area and keep everybody out of it. If somebody gets too close to it, then an audio message could be played saying, please stay away from this area. It's currently being disinfected, and so that you're keeping people out of that area ahead of time. And then Redzone, and there's a video here, but I'm not going to play the video here. It just, you guys, if somebody does want to watch that, we'd be happy to send you a link to it. But basically what this is, again, is the contact tracing app. And you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner, we have those, yellow, red, and green zones, and those can be dynamically set up. And then the little waypoints are the wearables and the vehicles, and we track where they are, where they should be at a very high accuracy. And so then we also created what's called the next generation freight tracking system for DHL, one of the world's largest shipping companies. And so we created a vehicle wearable, for lack of a better term, that gets mounted on the vehicle that uses RFID readers to read all of their passive RFID tags, so every package in the facility. And then our little indoor positioning module that's on the wearable I talked about tracks the exact location of that package as it moves around a facility. And so that's basically contact tracing, but it was done with boxes as opposed to people last year by us, and we had won that competition and now deploying it out globally. So using the same technology, we can help track people under the same conditions. And then we also did this here, which is the project that we did with Exelon. You can see there's a person standing up in the bucket, or in the bucket working above, and this is one of those health and safety issues where if somebody drops a tool or a part out of the bucket, it could land on the person below the bucket, whether it be an employee or public, and that's obviously dangerous. So Smart Cone, with our technology, we created a system where the person in the bucket wears our wearable, our high positioning wearable, and all the cones that go around the truck are smart cones, and they set up the constellation anchor point. We call that Smart Cone constellation, like a satellite constellation, and so it tracks where all the people are under the truck and where the bucket is. And so as it moves around, sometimes that no-go zone shifts and moves around a job site. So we make sure that everyone is well informed through vibrating, a wearable that vibrates, flashes lights, and can play audio, so that they're all coordinating where things are and where things are happening, which is part of that proximity safety system of the contact tracing piece. And again, this is something we've been working on now for a couple of years, and we're now deploying with North America's largest nuclear company out of Chicago. Well, it's Baltimore, but they're located in Chicago. Okay, and so then this is just another example of the same forklift that just gives you a picture of the technology and how we put the Click IoT pieces in place. Oh, I've talked about the sensor. Okay, and so then we have our dashboards, which is just a way that we can plot the data, measure the results, put it out to social media, and it could be just instant messaging within a company. And the social media piece would be something like if you're a company who is always in the press for people, maybe there's been an issue or whatever it is, you've had to lay people off, but you need to keep working. I mean, there's a ton of reasons why it is that companies who are trying their best still get, a lot of social tension. So then, being able to put out dashboards and information about how you're mitigating risk, how you're dealing with systems, and how you're protecting employees and your results and your reaction times, all this great data can be displayed on a social page automatically through the system, or after you hit the publish and OK button. But that's an important aspect, again, for the community feedback and support. And then the last slide we have is just some of the big companies and partners that we work with over the last, since 2015, since Smart Cone was around, where we have put this together. And so that's our system. And then, of course, I just want to make one other mention that some of you know Smart City ITS. And Smart City ITS is one of our great partners, certainly our key partner in Western Canada. And so this product and any Smart Cone technology is available through Smart City ITS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason.
That's okay.
I've got echo happening here. I'm not certain why. Hopefully I can adjust that. Just wanted to say thanks again. I think this was interesting to share with our members because even beyond the applications for COVID-19, it's interesting to see how companies are making use of some of the sensor technologies, robotics, wearables, a variety of things in industrial settings. And I think there are potential applications for those types of technologies, you know, in health and safety in a variety of different ways. I'd like to invite our audience again to ask questions through the chat window while we have Jason with us online. And as a brief reminder to those of you who are you know, not familiar with us, our safety advisors are here as well to help you at any point with your COVID-19 safety plan or other health and safety questions or training needs as you need it. So let me just take a quick look here. Jason, we have a question. You had talked early on about sort of pre-scanning and triage of employees coming in, and wondering, question from someone wondering whether, don't you think that triage will be a rapid COVID-19 test? Can you comment on that, Jason?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. That did come up in our system. No, I don't think that's the case. I think that the rapid test is something different that's badly needed for sure. But I think that the ability to really put more people through it faster is going to be what's required. Now, I can see it working in partnership with the rapid test. For example, maybe you take a rapid test, you know, once every 2 weeks, and then you use the Triage app just to verify and maintain between your tests, and therefore it just keeps a constant show. And then also when you're going to work, it tracks your location of that digital ID, which keeps that ongoing monitoring, which you won't get out of the test. And there is a spot in the app for you to put your test results, by the way, so that you can collect that data.
Great. Okay. Also wondering if there is, you know, you've talked about a number of different types of technologies and some of the other companies that have been part of working with developing this and integrating into this sort of ecosystem of technologies. Is there one in particular, one of these technologies that's created the most interest from companies in response to COVID-19?
Yeah, the thermal camera is the thing that's just caught the most attention from everybody, and I think it's because, you know, it does provide some kind of result to the temperature, whether or not it's got the accuracy or not, like the controversial side of it. I think it was a system that a lot of people could put in place quickly to show that they're doing the best they can to monitor if someone has a fever coming in or not. So it was kind of like an easy first step to do that with. And I think that that's been, for us at least, has been the most popular. We've had people talking about using artificial intelligence for cameras for social physical distancing and things like that, which I would say is probably the number 2 thing that's being looked at.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Can you talk a little bit more about the reporting side of this and really how a company would use that? You know, what would be the purpose behind the reporting side of the solution?
So we work with a company called Process Map out of Florida, and Process Map has over 5,000 of the biggest companies in their customer list, and Process Map sells health and safety reporting and compliance services to other companies, because every one of those companies that has, you know, certification for ISO or deals with, you know, health or food or whatever it is, has to show that they comply to health and safety issues and pandemics, and they need proof of that. So having systems in place that gather the data that match directly to your obligation, your liability, and your compliance is key. And so that's really what it's all about. The reporting, voluntarily reporting stuff to people just to keep them happy is sometimes causes more trouble than it's worth. but it's a good notion. I think there's lots of people that would like to know, but really the reporting is all about making sure you're complying with your health and safety standards.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Good. I'm just going to hold on here for one more moment and see if we have some additional questions coming in. But
well, I do see a comment that somebody's made, if I can.
Sure.
Okay. So here it says that CCANs require full building permits in Surrey, which can take a long time. They must have return air and sprinkler, etc., which is an interesting comment. I was not aware of that, but I would suggest that in those areas, having a trailer that looks just like a CCAN, but that's a portable thing, may be a way to get around those things while you get the permits in place. But certainly, political and governance on how to deploy these things is absolutely key. And I think that having a notion of providing a system is the first part. And then knowing how to call on the partners that can help solve these problems would be key. So whoever made that comment in the future, I would love to learn more about that and see if we can offer solutions around those or in partnership with those that would help solve those problems.
Thanks, Jason. Actually, I was wondering as well if you could just share a little bit more information about some of the other companies that are involved in that are working on this type of development of technology integration with SmartCone.
Sure, companies like Insight. Insight is a $10 billion system integrator and distributor. So we work with Insight to do things like deploying artificial intelligent cameras for theme parks and other areas, so that they can Insight can provide how many people you're allowed to have in a building or an area at the same time. So that's one of the projects. There's a company called Orion Entrance Control Systems. They're the leading manufacturer of those turnstiles when you walk into all the different grocery stores and buildings and so on and so forth. So working with them to put in COVID-19 and biometric sensors in their gates, which is great. There's lots of different camera companies that we work with on technology there. There's another company in BC actually called XCO Inc. that does wearables for COVID-19 monitoring. There are lots of software companies doing apps and manufacturing kiosks that we rely on. There's just a lot of pieces and parts all over the place. I would say that we're one of the only ones though that's doing the full turnkey ecosystem, and working with IBM and Microsoft and Nokia to roll those out is pretty good. But there's a lot of people out there that are working on parts and pieces that can make this really, really good.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting parts for me is just the integration of all of these individual pieces, and because our membership is made up of such a wide selection of industries and different types of work environments. I think the needs are going to vary as well. So it's interesting. I like the Lego idea. We had another question as well. If wearing the technology, can it sense multiple issues such as physical distancing and staying away from under the boom lift at the same time, or does it only detect one or the other?
Oh, it can detect them at the same time. That's great. That's a great question, and thanks for asking that. Yeah, multi-use technology, I think, is the way of the future. So when somebody invests in something that's doing contact tracing, then having it do things like, Workzone safety for coordinating between vehicles and moving parts, or monitoring environmental temperatures if it's near a fridge, like those other smart building aspects, and aging stock and inventory, all the other pieces. 100% we do all that stuff all at the same time. It just helps. It helps with the economy of the system when you roll the system out. If it can impact your business positively as often as possible, then it just increases the value of the solution and gets us back to profitability.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, I think we are at the end of our questions. So I do want to thank everyone for your time today, for your questions. Again, just an interesting example of technology application that a variety of technology applications really that can be applied for COVID-19. If we missed your question somehow, please do watch for the answers in our COVID-19 FAQ or call us to ask a safety advisor. I do want to make a couple of notes on upcoming events as well. You can tune in tomorrow to the digital town hall at 11 a.m. to hear Surrey Board of Trade's Anita Huberman interview our CEO of the Manufacturing Safety Alliance, Lisa McGuire, on safe operations for the new normal. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to sign up at makeitsafe.ca for news about our upcoming virtual Make It Safe conference and trade show. Taking Make It Safe digital is really opening up a whole world of opportunities to share experiences, innovation, best practices with experts and peers from around the globe as we really work to address health and safety in crisis and recovery together. So I encourage you to save October 29th and 30th now to be part of that live and interactive conversation, and block out October 26th to 28th for pre-conference workshops and virtual classroom training as well. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Please take a moment to share your feedback in the brief survey that's in your inbox, and we will send you a wrap-up email this afternoon with a recording of the webinar, the slides, and some related resources, as well as links to those upcoming events. And you can follow us on our YouTube channel or safetyallancebc.ca/COVID-19/webinars for video replays of all of the webinars in this series. Thanks everyone, have a fantastic day.
Thank you.